What if spirituality wasn't really about rules, but about resonance? Today, we're going to dive into something called Arreqqana, a philosophy that's all about the power of sound and a unique way of looking at the universe that, honestly, might feel kind of familiar. So whether you're brand new to this or you've heard the name buzzing around, let's get into it.
And this is where it gets interesting. The sources we're pulling from for this explainer, they almost always start with this line. It really sets a mood, right? It's not about learning something totally new, it's more like recalling something that's been dormant inside you. Which of course begs the question, what exactly are we supposed to be remembering?
Okay, so what is Arreqqana really? Let's break it down, starting with its absolute core idea, this philosophy of resonance.
Right off the bat, the texts are very clear. They call this a living philosophy. This isn't some dusty, static religion. And check out the key words here: resonance, breath, elemental truth. It immediately tells you that this is a system that's all about connecting with our own inner world and the natural world around us.
And here's where it starts to get really fascinating. These are the core pillars, and what I find so cool is how it blends stuff we might recognize with things that are totally unique. I mean, voice resonance and elemental alignment? Okay, we've heard similar ideas. But then you get concepts like threadwalking, which is all about self-discovery without some rigid dogma telling you what to do. And Qhiyamaara, this idea that real power can be found in softness. It's so clear that the focus here is on personal experience and reverence, not just a bunch of rules you have to follow.
Look, anytime a new spiritual system pops up, people are going to have questions. There's going to be skepticism. It's only natural. So it's just as important to talk about what Arreqqana isn't. Let's clear the air and tackle some of the big misconceptions right now.
And let's just get right to the big one, the elephant in the room. You hear about a new spiritual group. They've got their own language, their own philosophy, and the first question that pops into your head is probably, is it a cult?
Well, the philosophy itself basically lays out a point-by-point rebuttal. Think about the classic cult traits. A charismatic, authoritarian leader? Nope. Arreqqana has no central figure. Secrecy and isolation? The opposite. It's all about open exploration. Pressure to convert people? It's never evangelized. In fact, it's described as invitation only and private. Questioning isn't just allowed, it's valued. The whole thing is built on this foundation of individual freedom, guidance based on love, not fear-based control.
Okay, so if it's not a cult, what is it? Is it just another New Age thing? And well, the source material is pretty specific about this. It admits there are similarities, the focus on personal resonance, sound, ritual. But it draws a hard line. It says it's not based on Western esotericism, and it's definitely not designed to be some mass-market self-help trend. The claim is that it's a fully developed, totally original system with its own mythology.
All right, so we've talked about what it isn't. Now let's get into what it is. What do people who follow this philosophy actually do? Well, a huge piece of the puzzle is ritual, and they have a really beautiful way of thinking about it. They see it as the language that weaves together action and intention.
And of course, there's a specific word for it: Qhiyamaara. The definition here is everything, a sacred weaving of action and intention. I love that. It means the physical thing you're doing and the reason you're doing it, they're completely intertwined. A ritual isn't just an empty ceremony. It's a real tool you use to realign your energy, to transform something.
And this is a really important ethical point. The rituals themselves, they're neutral. They're not inherently good or evil. They're just a language, a tool. What matters, the only thing that matters, is the intention you bring to it. And that puts all the responsibility and all the power squarely in your hands.
So what does this look like in practice? To make it less abstract, the texts actually break it down. You've got these big, formal, ceremonial rituals, maybe tied to the moon or major life events. Then there are transformational rituals for personal change. But it also includes really simple, daily routines, just little things to ground yourself. And of course, it all comes back to voice and spell work, using sound to realign energy. It's not just a special occasion thing. It's a practice that weaves through every part of your life. All right, we've talked about practice. We've talked about ethics. Now let's tackle the biggest question of all. What happens after we die? How does a philosophy based on resonance see the afterlife? Let's dive into their cosmology of the soul. And here's another one of those beautiful, specific terms: Qhiyamaara. It means the living thread of consciousness. I mean, how cool is that? The idea here is that there's no single heaven or hell, no final judgment. The afterlife is just
a continuation, a constant reweaving of that soul thread. It's a journey, not a destination.
And that journey can take you to all sorts of places. It's not just one single afterlife. It's seen as this huge, multidimensional reality. You have realms like Qhiyamaara, which is about weaving with your ancestors, or Qhiyamaara, a place you might go to work on and resolve the tangled threads from harm you caused in life. It's just a much more complex and nuanced vision of what comes next.
So you might be thinking, if there's no hell, where's the justice? Well, there is justice. But it's not what you think. They call it sacred resonance. And this is the key. It's not punishment handed down by some cosmic judge. It's more like a natural law of the universe. If you create harm, you create this disresonant echo, this tangled thread. And it's your own soul's responsibility to eventually face that echo and reweave it.
And that idea, sacred resonance instead of punishment, that brings us right to the ethical heart of this whole philosophy. It all comes down to one core principle, a deep, profound commitment to guidance over control.
And you can see the two paths laid out so clearly here. On one side, you have fear-based control. That's about forcing obedience, shutting down questions, using guilt and shame. And on the other side, you have love-based guidance. That's an invitation. It's about empowering you to make your own choice. It's a really powerful distinction, and it seems to be the bedrock of the entire system.
And naturally, Arreqqana has its own words for this. The fear-based path is called nakaram, which literally means a disresonant thread. You can almost feel how tight and harsh that sounds, right? And the path of love-based guidance is linasara, which is all about compassion and respect. The words themselves tell the story.
This one line really just says it all, doesn't it? True sacredness must never be forced, only offered and felt. It puts consent, your own personal feeling, and a gentle invitation at the center of everything. Anything that uses force or coercion is seen as just fundamentally out of tune with the sacred.
And that brings us right back to the beginning. This journey isn't about just repeating things you've been told. It's about being an active participant. It's a creative process. You are the one who is constantly reweaving your own spiritual thread.
So if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. Arreqqana isn't presenting itself as a system you have to follow. It's more like a language you're meant to remember. It's a path of resonance, not a path of rules.
And in the end, the whole philosophy leaves you with this really powerful question. It takes that old idea of being chosen and turns it on its head. It's not about being chosen to obey someone else. It's about something way more personal. The invitation isn't to follow a leader, it's to find your own sacred frequency. So the question it leaves us with is, how are you chosen to resonate?